board members. We have 4 members present, therefore we have a quorum, and we have all had an opportunity to review the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So second.
Mrs. Thompson has moved, Ms. Hilliard has seconded. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Next, we've all had an opportunity to review the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the October 1st, 2024 regular board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hilliard has moved, Mrs. Thompson has seconded. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Now on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Green.
Thank you, Dr. Sivak. Good evening, board members, and to our team members and all of our community members who are with us or joining us via live stream. We'll begin, as we typically do, with our video highlights.
Driven by a passion for transforming young lives,
Guys, I give my students my absolute best every day because I, in turn, require their best every day.
several outstanding JPS educators were honored for their commitment to excellence in education by Ask for More Jackson and the Community Foundation for Mississippi.
They too are learners, constantly seeking ways to improve their teaching, reflect on their practice, and push themselves to grow professionally.
This recognition not only highlights the work I do, but also acknowledges the passion and inspiration that fuel my daily efforts.
I would not be as passionate about this career if it were not for my wonderful EL students and their families. Being their maestra is a title that I wake up every single morning grateful for.
There is no question why Jackson Public Schools is continuing to improve. It's not because Superman sits in the superintendent office, because that's not true. It's because of these folks and others like them who do amazing work every day.
Our district has made a full recovery, and several of our schools are now ranked amongst the best in the state of Mississippi.
A vision for the future as Jackson Mayor Chokwe Lumumba delivers his State of the City address.
Because of the people who care about our children, who care about our communities, our families, we've been able to move our school district up 2 letter grades. We've been able to increase graduation rate by 13, 14 points. We've been able to increase our performance on the state test and many other indicators that show that we're actually far better off today than we were at another point.
And a powerful performance by Callaway's Chorale. While the drama team from Wells APAC brings a dynamic performance.
I wanted sunlight. I wanted serenity. I wanted achievement. I wanted to be the bird soaring above the sky, away from my past. I wanted to be a diamond in moonlight. Yeah!
Today we are celebrating College Spirit Week.
Cardozo and Mississippi State, Valley State, Ole Miss.
JPS schools and offices celebrated College Spirit Week with staff and scholars wearing the colors of their favorite colleges.
I think it's important so that we can educate on the week's events. We do things like researching colleges and finding out what the requirements are, knowing the goals, setting long-term goals, but also setting short-term goals so they know what they have to do to make it to college and to be successful.
And I represent Cardozo Middle School. It's a wonderful school, guys.
Please visit our website at jackson.k12.ms.us. Follow us on Facebook at Jackson Public Schools, on Instagram at JPS Student Voices, on Twitter at JPS District, Comcast channels 18 and 19, and YouTube at youtube.com/JPSITV.
Board members, as you can see from the highlights there, we spent a lot of time this past several weeks just celebrating JPS and our many rock stars and our scholars who are just doing amazing things. So it's always a pleasure to be able to go to these different spaces and to address crowds, especially Jackson crowds, and talk about the great things that are happening here in Jackson Public Schools, some of which people might know, and some things folks really don't know. And so it's just great to be out proselytizing about Jackson Public Schools. Well, board members, as you know, the state assessment scores were released last month. The accountability scores were released last month, and we maintained our C rating. Given the challenging year that we experienced last year, we're looking forward to building on that level of performance and achieving it even higher this school year for our scholars and families and communities. As we continue to celebrate our school leaders during National Principals Month, we want to take the time to recognize schools that achieved accountability ratings of an A, B, or C for the 23-24 school year. At this time, our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Michael Cormack, will come before us and introduce each of the principals leading those schools. Dr. Cormack.
Good evening. Good evening. To Board President Sivak, Dr. Green, members of the board. As Dr. Green mentioned, October is National Principals Month, and we are so pleased to acknowledge and to recognize some of our outstanding principals leading our highest performing schools in the district. I want to invite my colleagues, our assistant superintendents, to join me here at the table to share in the celebration. We have designated in the Olympic spirit some bronze cups, some silver cups, and some gold cups to recognize just the outstanding performance levels across our district. We'll begin by acknowledging our C-rated schools for the 23-24 school year. And when the principal is called, their assistant superintendent will provide and furnish the award, and Dr. Green will invite you to step forward as well for a photograph with the leaders as well. Great. All right. We'll begin with Miss Carla Baker Thomas at Clausell Elementary School.
Awesome.
Mr. Torrey Hampton, Forest Hill High School. Mr. Terrence Hill, Green Elementary School. And now, Mr. Hill is leading the fabulous Powell Middle School. We're excited to have him on the middle school, as part of the middle school network as well, but he previously led at Green. Miss Katrina Crawford, Isabel Elementary School. Miss Kimberly Griggs, Shirley Elementary School. And Miss Griggs, you have the special privilege of receiving two, so hold up. We'll also acknowledge you for your work previously at Sykes Elementary School. Miss Stephanie Wilson, Smith Elementary School. And with Ms. Wilson, we'll also recognize you in a minute with a second. So, all right. Dr. Lynn Horton, Timberlawn Elementary School. And Dr. Leroy Merrick, Walton Elementary School. Let's give a big round of applause to all of our C-rated schools. Next, we will recognize each of our Silver Cup or B-rated schools. We'll start first with Mrs. Robbie Ferguson at Bailey Middle APAC. Dr. Shamika McClung, Callaway High School. Mr. Bobby D. Brown, Jim Hill High School. Miss Yashantis Burton, Lake Elementary School. Looked like she brought a few lions with her. Hey.
That's all right.
Still lots of love for Lake. She brought some lions with her. Yes. Yes. All right.
I love it.
So next up will be Murrah High School. We're going to recognize both the outgoing principal and the incoming, if we will be photoed together. Dr. Alvinette Buchanan and Dr. Alonda Nicholson, Murrah High School.
That's all right.
Miss Jocelyn Smith, North Jackson Elementary School. And Mrs. Lori Torrey, Span Elementary School. Please give a round of applause to all of our B-rated schools. Delayed but not denied. Here we go. Let's give a big round of applause. Hey. All right. We're also pleased to acknowledge 5 A-rated or Gold Cup schools for the 23-24 school year. Representing Barack Obama Magnet, Mrs. Stephanie Wilson. Mrs. Vanessa Dean, Casey Elementary School. Dr. Keishair Love Rankin, Ida B. Wells, APAC. Dr. Sarah Harper, McWillie Elementary School. And Mr. Kevin Culver, Northwest Middle School. Please give him a big round of applause. And Doc, as a matter of personal privilege, I hope that you'll stay right there. I'm going to invite my colleagues on the executive team to join me. Tomorrow is Boss's Day, and it is not possible for us to maintain and continue to grow without a lead learner and a fabulous superintendent at the helm, helping to lead and to drive results and improvement through the district. And we are so proud to have a fantastic boss, a leader to learn from. And so Doc's going to be out tomorrow during Boss's Day, continuing to learn and to bring things back to the district. But as a token of our appreciation for his leadership, we wanted to say thank you. So to Dr. Green.
Think they're slick. Thank you again to the entire team just for that continued support and encouragement as I try to support and encourage all of you. Thank you to all of our school leaders, those who were recognized here today and others throughout the district who are working tirelessly to create amazing outcomes and experiences for our scholars and for other team members. I want to really, really stress that we're, as much as we know that our accountability ratings and the accountability model and our performance on that, it matters. It does matter. But we know that there's so much more to our children, to our schools and communities that's not captured in the accountability model. And so we've had some folks who were recognized in some years and not recognized in other years as the performance levels shift from time to time, and we know that there's all kinds of stories and contexts behind all of those things. And so my main point here and my message is just for all of our team members to be encouraged, for all of our principals and assistant principals, and even the deans of students who are working to help lead our schools and ensure that those schools work, that they function, and that they're consistently above grade. We do appreciate you, and we recognize you, and we know that you're working without fail to make those outcomes happen. So let's give another huge round of applause to all of our principals. That concludes my remarks.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Green. And thank you to all of our principals who are here tonight. You all are the lifeblood of the district, and it's just been a privilege to be a part of this district over the last several years. And in our school board training, they emphasize that having strong principals is fundamental to having a strong school district. So from the board, and I certainly invite any of my colleagues to share any comments as well. We thank you. We're grateful for you. We don't take any of the time that we don't see the extra work, the managing the complaints, managing everything for granted. And so, again, thank you. And I would just ask that there's one more announcement I need to make. We don't have any public comment, but I'd like for y'all to stay, if you would, just for a minute. Board members, any comments for the principals? Any? All right, thank you all. Okay, let me just, we don't have any public comment tonight, but I would say for the public, community members who would like to make public comment should email their request to Ms. Rosalind Williams, our board secretary, at roswilliams@jackson.k12.ms.us no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting, or appear in person in the boardroom no later than 5:15 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Additionally, all of the board member emails are on our website, and we can be reached that way as well. Okay, now we will move on to the first item of our information-only agenda, which is our board member reports. Before we begin, board members, I do want to take a moment of personal privilege to acknowledge not just Dr. Green for Boss's Day, but a nomination for Dr. Green. Dr. Green has been nominated He's one of 5 finalists for the prestigious Green Garner Award by the Council of Great City Schools. Just to give a little background on this award, it's a national honor just to be in the final 5. But, you know, this is effectively the Nobel Prize of urban education superintendents. You know, and so we already know we've got the best superintendent in the country. It's a huge achievement for our district. You know, when you look at the past winners over 30 years, you know, you see superintendents from Miami, Detroit, Houston, Atlanta,
Dallas.
and in 2 days, Jackson, Mississippi. I'm going to speak it into existence. So, you know, if you look back, you know, since the first day he stepped in this role, Dr. Green's been laser focused on our people, our facilities. He led the way for the largest pay raise in JPS history for teachers, cafeteria staff, maintenance workers. He's overseen over $100 million in facility improvements, new science labs, new libraries, new recreational spaces. He's been part of leading our accountability score increases by 2 letter grades. We've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in private funding. We've cleared multiple state violations and had notable gains in student outcomes. We've tripled the algebra pass rate. We've had a 14 percentage point rise in graduation rates. So the winner will be announced October 17th in Dallas, so that's the day after tomorrow, I believe. And the recipient of the award will also get a $10,000 college scholarship to present to a graduating senior of the district. So again, this is a huge, huge recognition. I think it's appropriate that many of the principals are in here because again, it's a testament to your leadership, Dr. Green, but also the collective work of everyone in the district. So please join me in recognizing Dr. Green for this accomplishment. And that's all I had to say. If anyone was here who was waiting, now's a great time to break in the agenda. And thank you all for those who stayed for that. Okay, board members, in addition to recognizing Dr. Green, we have our annual Mississippi School Board Association survey, the legislative survey, and Ms. Williams compiled our responses. And what I would like to do is just run through any of the items where there's not unanimous agreement or no opinion on, and just see if there's a, so I'll run through the responses. Thank you all for responding, and we'll move through this quickly. So on the matter of legislation that would allow open enrollment for students to attend the school of their choice regardless of residency, there was unanimous opposition or no opinion. On legislation that would require school board members to be elected, there was unanimous opposition. On legislation that would restrict local control of school boards, there was unanimous opposition. On legislation that would require all board members to be elected at the same time, there was unanimous opposition and 1 no opinion. I guess that's not unanimous, but there was no deviation. On legislation that would provide incentives for school districts to move to a year-round calendar, 87% opposed, 1 no opinion. On legislation that addresses school board member misconduct, 87% support, 1 no opinion. On matters of legislation that would require a local school board to formally adopt a code of conduct for board members, 75% support, 25% no opinion. So I think up until that point, I think we're good, Ms. Williams, with advancing the majority recommendation. All right, now we start getting into places where there is disagreement on the board. And so We'll run through these. So on matters of legislation that would prohibit the use of cell phones or other personal communication devices by students during school hours, we had 50% opposed, 50% support. My recommendation would be that we just not respond to that. Are folks okay with that? Okay. On legislation that would limit the use of artificial intelligence in the schools, we had 62% support, 12% opposed, 25% no opinion. There's a majority there on support. Is there anyone who is significantly opposed to signaling support on that one?
Could you repeat?
It's legislation that would limit the use of artificial intelligence in schools. So roughly two-thirds of the board is in favor of that. There is one board member in opposition, and there are two board members. And there must have been, I'm just trying to figure out the numbers on this in terms of because there's 8 respondents. So Dr. Green probably responded too, maybe? No?
Miss Hilliard did it twice.
Oh, you're stacking the deck, Ms. Hilliard. Okay. All right. Anyways, is there anyone opposed to signaling support for legislation that would limit AI in schools? Okay, then we're going to signal support for that one. There's unanimous support for legislation that would create a structured statewide approach to quality early childhood education. On legislation that would eliminate the requirement of passing an end-of-year course test to graduate. 75% support, 25% oppose. Anyone strongly against signaling support for this one? Okay, we'll signal support on that one. On this next one, legislation that would increase qualifications for individuals running for local school board, we had equally opposition, support, and no opinion. My recommendation there would be we just not respond on that one. On legislation that would allow for a salary supplement for experienced teachers willing to relocate to F-rated districts, we had 62% support, 12% opposed, 25% no opinion. Anyone against not signaling support? Okay, we'll signal support on that one. On legislation that would allow public funds to be diverted from public schools to non-public schools, home schools, virtual schools by means of vouchers, tuition tax credits, or scholarships, there was unanimous opposition. On legislation that would allow public charter schools with districts with successful accountability ratings of A, B, or C, there was 85% opposed, 14% no opinion, so we will signal opposition on that one. Legislation that would provide incentives to people majoring in education or people seeking an alternative route license, there was 100% support. On legislation that would provide financial incentives to consolidate schools, we had 25% opposed, 37% support, 37% no opinion. Given the disparate responses, I'm going to recommend no response on that one. On legislation that would shift control of student attendance officers from the Mississippi Department of Education and local school districts to provide, there was 62% no opinion, 25% support, 12% oppose. I think we can signal no opinion on that one. Is that okay with folks? Okay. All right, top priorities from the we had a lot of things here. Top priorities for the upcoming legislative session. Again, we received all of these. This is more of a open-ended opportunity for board members to weigh in. There seemed to be a number of board members signaled full funding. Equitable funding, so I think we can probably signal full funding, equitable funding as a top issue. Are folk okay with that? There was opposition to voucher programs. That was one that was put in there. Restricting expansion of charters, seeking a shift. Yeah, that's how the charter school payments are funded. Reviewing the charter school payments. This is moving from a one-time payment to a monthly payment. There's also some oversight of homeschooling requirements. Again, some of these were recommendations that the administration had shared with our legislative delegation earlier. In addition to full funding of education, equitable funding, is there any, I might recommend that we put our recommendations in there around charter school payments. Are people comfortable with that one? And then opposition to voucher programs. Okay, so those will be our top three, Ms. Williams. On matters of top issues currently in the district, again, there's a number here. Evaluating proposals for property, support for optimizing school facilities, finalizing projects using ESSER funds, supporting academic growth in middle schools, growing number of seats used in early childhood classes, implementation of a new strategic plan, funding teacher shortage vacant property, so there's another one on vacant property, teacher salary increases, improving attendance, promoting excellence, opposition to the banning of books, recruiting quality employees, attendance, chronic absenteeism, supports for districts to address high absenteeism rates, salary increases for teachers, support staff, administrators, increased funding for K-12 art, music support staff, medical staff, personnel at all athletic events. So we could just send that whole thing if we want to, or we can engage in a discussion to try to whittle it down.
Do we have any board members who would be opposed to those items? I don't think so. I think we ought to let everybody know that's how we feel. At least that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I would maybe advocate for, to the extent engagement is driven by order, it seems like a number of people are raising this question of attendance and absenteeism and those supports. It feels like maybe, just eyeballing this list, it kind of feels like that should move high on the listing, if that makes sense. But I'm comfortable sending the list if we want to do that.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's move. So Ms. Williams, let's just take this list, and then you can see where the chronic absenteeism ones are, and we can just move those to the top of the list. Okay. All right, well, thank you, board members. Thank you for taking that time. Ms. Williams, thank you for organizing us. And I know we had some support from the IT team as well, I believe. No? Did you do all that? All right, well,
thank you.
As we say at my organization, we're all members of Team X, Team Y, Team Z, so thank you for, once again, getting us organized. All right, board members. Next, we will move on to our ESSER 3 monthly update. Mr. Warren Bowen, and I forget your name. Devin Boone. And Mr. Boone will give us the update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Warren Bowen with Triage Facility Consultants. I am doing a monthly update of the ESSER 3 projects from August 16, 24 to September 15, 2024. This update will reflect the projects, scheduling, and budget updates as well. Our first project is Pecan Park. Pecan Park School project is moving aggressively to wrap up. We're at 83% on that project right now, on schedule to be completed in October. this month. Our Career Development Center class upgrades was a good meeting today. That project is, go back. Oh, I'm sorry. No other updated percentages. Bailey APAC project right now is showing at 70.6%. It is on schedule. It is one of our projects that is scheduled to go past the December 15th deadline. But good news, our water meter is in, our full power is on, our gas is hooked up, so we push up on that. Okay, gotcha. Career Development Center trade building, restroom upgrades at 10%, on schedule to be completed within that December 15 time period. Capital City Alternative School at 89.8% is also scheduled to be completed in time. Casey, Galloway, Span, and Whitten schools, 35.5%, and is certainly on schedule as well. Murrah High School renovations, 42.1%, is also scheduled to be on time as well, moving forward. Provine High School, 42.7%. Isabel Elementary, 8% complete, is on schedule as well. Powell Middle School, 28.8% and on schedule. Nice. Timberline Elementary School at 2%. Certainly this project is much further than that right now and on schedule. Substantial completed projects, Wells APAC renovations, Board Elementary, restrooms and HVAC renovations. Whitten Middle School, New Shirley, restroom improvements. John Hopkins Elementary. Board and Green Elementary window projects. McLeod Elementary restroom renovations. Powell renovations Phase 1. Package A, Bates, Blackburn, Cardoza, Forest Hill, and Peoples HVAC improvements. Package B, Callaway, Kirksey, North Jackson, and McWillie HVAC improvements. Package F, Casey, Northwest restroom renovations and HVAC upgrades. Jim Hill school improvements. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Bowen. Board members, any questions?
Good news.
Thank you.
I think, are you, Mr. McGuffey, are you? Go ahead.
So I very unfairly sent in questions very late, so I'm going to pose them with the acknowledgement that I didn't send them in a timely fashion. So if we can't answer these at present, that's okay, but I'm flagging this for us to discuss. I've gotten asked a number of questions about Bailey in particular. It's no surprise. But some of those questions revolve around work in the auditorium. If you could provide us an update for the work that's being done in the auditorium, timely finish, all that sort of stuff. The second question is about, at one point there was a discussion about bus lanes on the State Street side, whether or not that has been sort of phased out of the project scope, if that's going to be done down the line. Those are some of the questions I have. I figured that was going to elicit other people.
So, Board President, Board, thank you for those questions. I did get those. So
you got them from my car.
Yes.
You got them sent from my car.
Yes, sir. So the auditorium is not, the auditorium and the parking were not in this initial phase. So it is part of a Phase 2 discussion. Auditorium, because this building is historic, we're working through some issues with archives and history on what the auditorium seating could look like. Right. We are in the process of deciding on a design firm to do the parking layout. We've talked. There are some new concerns about that North Side and Riverside Drive as it relates to the one laning of that street further up. So we are working on those things. They will probably, in all likelihood, not be fully complete by the time we re-enter this building, but we'll make every effort to get as much of that complete as we possibly can.
But what you are hearing is, although they're not in this current scope, and that's why they've not been reporting on this, this is still something that is important to many folks and that we're committed to addressing. It's just how.
Right.
Yes.
That was my working assumption. I just kind of wanted to say it out, have it all out loud, because I could ask this question all the time, and if we answer it publicly, it makes my life easier. The other thing I wanted to say that is not related to Bailey is related to the presentation. I drove past Pecan Park the other day, and it looks excellent. So
thank you for saying that.
I just wanted to say that. You know, I think when we did school tours at the beginning of the semester, you know, they had a lot more sort of construction set up on the tunneling in, like for the entryway and everything. And some of that is starting to disappear, and you get to see this really pretty building. So I just want to kind of acknowledge that it's coming along.
Thank you, Mr. McGuffey. And I'd encourage other board members, if you haven't driven by, to go by and check it out. It really does look really nice, and it's a huge improvement, 10, 20 time, whatever, improvement on what was. And so, and we're still working on the site, as I understand it. We're still doing some site work there. But the building itself is a huge improvement on what was. So thank you for acknowledging that.
I too, excuse me, Dr. Green, would like to say thank you because my neighborhood association is part of the Pecan Park area, and I have members of that. I think we're supposed to visit tomorrow, and I forgot to tell the principal. So, is it next week? Thank you, Rosin. It's next week. But that's very important to Ward 5. So thank you, and this is good news. Good news.
Great. And Ms. Burke, you can probably answer this question. So for the handful of projects that will go past 2024, we're all good with federal funding on that front?
Yes. So they are all been obligated. We have until, under the present extension, we have till end of March. There is some conversation about a later extension, but we are working really hard not to have to rely on that. We're working to get it spent and get it obligated and reimbursed by March.
Great. Thank you for that.
And you'll hear later in this presentation, in case she forgets, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to steal the thunder. We actually have a $22 million request for ESSER funding this month that we're going to draw down. So we're pretty excited.
Wow.
It's a huge, that's the largest amount we've been able to request. So Ms. Purnell can fill in the blanks on that.
All right. Great. Thanks, Mr. Burke. All right, board members, we will continue. And thank you, Mr. Bowen. Mr. Boone, thank you. We will move on to the next item, which is a review of various policies for amendment. Attorney Harris will give this update.
Good evening, Board President Dr. Sivak, Board Members, Superintendent Dr. Green, JPS Community. Full disclosure, we are tabling GADB until next time for further research. What I'm presenting tonight is policy IGB for amendment, IGB graduation requirements, and for deletion, policy IGC/JBR, the Certificate of Completion for Prescribed Program, those policies and procedures. For IGB graduation requirements, we are recommending amendment of this policy to include a link to our student handbook. For the deletion of the policies and procedures for IGC, JBR, we're recommending deletion of that because it's duplicative and all the requirements are contained in IGB.
Thank you, Attorney Harris. Board members, any questions, comments? Great, thank you. Thank you to the Policy Committee for keeping things moving. All right. Next, we will move on to our information action items. Attorney Harris will provide requests to approve a resolution of conflict of interest disclosure of the attorney related to the sale of Chastain Middle School. Attorney Harris.
Thank you. I'll invite Deputy General Counsel Ellie Turnage up to present this item.
Good evening to all.
Good evening.
Dr. Sivak, the board, Dr. Green, and all others who are present. I think that you've all received a copy of the executive summary from the General Counsel's office pertaining to the sale of Chastain Middle School to Redeemer. The attorneys for Redeemer have disclosed to the district that they have a conflict, and that conflict is that Jetson Hollingsworth of Butler Snow also represents Redeemer, and that is technically a conflict. Butler Snow has done some work for JPS, particularly 16 section land leases and they also represent Redeemer and have represented Redeemer on some nonprofit corporate matters. And so he disclosed it to us, and we have recommended from the General Counsel's office that there be a waiver of the conflict. Redeemer has already waived, and some of the reasons why we are recommending that the conflict be waived is there has been a long-term relationship between JPS and Butler Snow. We've built a relationship of trust between the district and Butler Snow. The real estate matter is above board with little opportunity for any kind of chicanery or anything of that sort. The real estate matter has no pecuniary issues necessarily that would lend themselves to any kind of mischief. And finally, the district has its own counsel who will be present and on hand at every step of the way. And so at this juncture, the General Counsel's office recommends that the conflict between Butler Snow, having worked for the district and for Redeemer, we recommend that the board waives it. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Board members, any questions, comments?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I reviewed JET's proposed language for the conflict waiver. Unless I'm really mistaken, I don't think I am, they are also bond counsel to the district. And so that is an unrelated matter. I don't think it has any meaningful impact on whether or not we approve or disapprove of a waiver. I think it's important for it to be specifically called out in any waiver that we agree to. So I would just suggest that we provide that language back to them. They identified, for the record, they identified 16th section lease work that they've done for the district, and then there's sort of a generic reference to prior engagements. I think given the scale of the bond offerings that we've done through them, it is meaningful to sort of call that out specifically. So that's all.
We'll make those changes. Thank you.
So, Mr. McGuffey, so let's go on the record of first of all, is there any more discussion on this matter? Okay. If not, then Mr. McGuffey, will you make a motion?
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the waiver with the addition of specifically mentioning that Butler Snow has served and I think currently serves as bond counsel for JPS.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. McGuffey, seconded by Mr. Figures. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next, and I think the remainder of these board will take up as a slate. We have the request to approve the agreement between Universal FirstCom Music and Jackson Public School District. Mr. Sherwin Johnson, our Executive Director of Public Engagement, will present this information.
Good evening to the Superintendent, Board President, members of the Board, the Legal Counsel, and the JPS community. The administration is seeking board approval for an agreement with Universal Music Group to assess their copyrighted music library for the use of video production projects by the instructional television team. This digital catalog will enhance the overall mood, tone, and messaging of our videos, helping us create more engaging and impactful content for our scholars and the wider JPS community.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Board members, any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's move on to the next request to approve the rental agreement between Advantage Business Systems, Konica Minolta, Acurio Press, C470, and the Jackson Public School District. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. Additionally, the administration recommends approval of the rental agreement for the use by Mississippi agencies and governing authorities and vendors between the Jackson Public School District and Advantage Business Systems for the lease of a high-volume color printer and copier for a 48-month term. The Acurio Press C4070 will be utilized by the Graphic Arts Department to provide critical copying, scanning, and printing services across the entire district, supporting a wide range of administrative and instructional needs.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next, we'll move on to the request to approve the agreement between the University of Mississippi Medical Center School of Nursing and the Jackson Public School District. Ms. Amanda Thomas, our Executive Director of Climate and Wellness, will present this information.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To all members, and as well as community members. The administration presents to you an approval of an agreement between Jackson Public Schools and the University of Mississippi Medical Center. This agreement is twofold in that we're asking you to accept the funding through the Mary Kilpatrick Haskell and Mary Sprayberry School Nurse Grant from the Mississippi Department of Education for $425,000 over 5 years, as well as the rules and responsibilities that the district will have for the various clinics at Galloway, Johnson, and Lanier High School. This grant provides funding for partial salaries of the nurse practitioners who are housed at Galloway and Johnson Elementary.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Board members, are there any questions? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the request to approve the agreement between the Community Foundation for Mississippi and the Jackson Public School District. Mr. David Schomer, our grant manager, will present this information.
Good evening, Dr. Green, President CVAC, board members, and JPS community. The administration recommends approval of the agreement between Community Foundation for Mississippi and Jackson Public Schools. The Delta Regional Authority has awarded JPS a $136,925 grant, specifically a strategic planning grant to conduct a feasibility study focusing on the repurposing of district facilities to transform unutilized properties into valuable assets that will stimulate job creation, economic development, and revitalization efforts in the city of Jackson. The Community Foundation for Mississippi will serve as fiscal agent for the grant project. The grant opportunity was made available through the Delta Regional Authority. The project period for the award will run through August 31st, 2026. Grant recipients will be required to report annually during the period of performance. This opportunity supports district commitments 1, innovative teaching and learning, and commitment 3, JPS Joy.
Thank you, Mr. Schomer. Board members, any questions, comments?
The date this would begin was in 2026, you said?
It'll conclude in August 2026.
Oh, concludes in August.
So it's basically start ASAP.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And we are certainly grateful to our partners at the Delta Regional Authority for supporting us in our strategic planning. All right, thank you, Mr. Schomer. Next, we have the request to approve the renewal agreement between Mississippi State University and the Jackson Public School District. Dr. Tommy Knowles, our Director of Recruitment, will present this information.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Green, Board President CVAC, members of the board. The administration is requesting approval of the renewal agreement between Mississippi State University and the Jackson Public School District to continue providing field experience, student teaching, and internship opportunities in the Jackson Public School District during the 2024 through 2027 fall and spring semesters. We do not currently have any students placed from Mississippi State, but are renewing the agreement to ensure placement is available through spring of 2027.
Thank you, Dr. Knowles. Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you. Board members, next we have the request to approve the grant agreement between Mississippi Arts Commission and Jackson Public School District. Dr. Grigsby, our Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Network 1, will present this information.
All right, good evening, Board President, Board members, Dr. Green, and community. I'm bringing forth for recommendation a grant that would allow Casey Elementary School to continue to provide arts integrated services. There are 2 art professionals where each of them will receive $2,500 apiece for a total of $5,000 to continue their art services.
Thank you, Dr. Grigsby. Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you. Next, we have the request to approve grant agreement STEM Goes Red. That would be capital S, capital T, capital E, capital M, between the American Heart Association and the Jackson Public School District. Dr. Buchanan, our Assistant Superintendent of Middle Schools, will present this information.
Thank you, President Sivak, board members, Dr. Green, and our other team members. The administration recommends approval of the grant offered by the Mississippi Heart Association to the Jackson Public School District Transportation Department to cover transportation fees for approximately 60 students to attend the STEM Goes Red event at the Mississippi Children's Museum. This event will bring interesting careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to life for young women. So it is it's a sampling of middle school young ladies from each middle school, and these sessions will be led by women in the STEM field. And so again, this grant supports transportation to the event, and our participation supports our strategic plan, Strong Finish commitment, where we are seeking to intentionally and early expose our students to career paths.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Buchanan. Board members, any questions or comments? Thank you. Next, we have our request to approve the right-of-way easement to Entergy, Mississippi. Mrs. Stephanie Harris Martin, our Executive Director of Transportation, will present this information.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve a right-of-way easement to Entergy, Mississippi for Section 16 property at 4015 Watkins Drive, which is our Transportation North Terminal.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. Can you share a little bit of background on why we're providing the easement?
We are in the process of getting charger stations installed at both sites, North Terminal and South Terminal. At the North Terminal, it requires a transformer. Because of the area, it will require an additional transformer. So Entergy needs this easement in order to come on our property and provide the construction, the services that we need to get that transformer installed.
Great. And are these the charging stations for our electric buses?
Yes, it is.
That's what I was going for. Great. Thank you. Board members, any questions or comments? Great. Thank you, Mrs. Martin.
Thank you.
Next, we have our request to award RFP 2024-15, our Energy Savings Performance Contracting Services. Mr. Earl Burke, our Chief Operations Officer, will present this information.
Thank you, Mr. Board President, Board, Superintendent, friends and family. Before I present this, I would just want to add a caveat. 23 of our 25 buses are in. Electric buses are here in district. So we're still really working to stand up that use of those. So we got 2 more to get.
Great.
The administration recommends the award of RFP 24-15 to PATH, Bridgeway Solutions, and Green Generation Solutions to prepare a no-cost investment-grade audit for comprehensive energy and operational cost reduction solution proposals. JPSD intends to use the selected energy services companies, otherwise known as ESCOs, to seek services and capital improvements aimed at enhancing facility energy and operational efficiency, addressing critical infrastructure needs, and improving and enhancing our facility health, safety, comfort, reliance, and functional alignment across all facilities. This supports our district commitment for organizational effectiveness, but also hopefully we'll find some JPS joy as we make these buildings better.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Board members, are there any questions, comments? I got one.
Yes.
I noticed in our prep materials there were actually 2. But is this just for the general audit of all of our facilities? And there was
Yes.
not the data center?
Not the data center. We pulled the data center because we needed to enhance the justification.
Okay.
So
We're okay with that, but I'm still waiting for their counsel to sign off on the form of the audit investment agreement. They'll sign the same agreement as the others. We developed a form for them all to sign since they're all essentially doing the same services. But Schneider's legal team was just slower to respond to approve the agreement. But I was fine with the justification. Yeah.
And there was one other question about, so the investment grade audit process, this is to approve the investment grade audit process where they'll go out and they'll look at our facilities and come back with a proposed plan. We will bring that plan back to, or the resulting contract back to the board for your review. and presentation. So this is just the first part of the process.
Mr. Burke, you may say just a little more on the kinds of things that they'll be looking for.
Yes, so they'll be looking for, looking at our windows, looking at our building envelope roofs, windows, lighting, plumbing, HVAC, in those facilities that we have not touched, that still have older facilities, trying to determine if there's a way for us to save money by becoming more energy efficient and then use that money to borrow so we can do the improvements. It's another funding mechanism that we're trying to leverage to continue this effort of improving our facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
I was just going to piggyback off of a question that got asked related to the one we're not considering, but I just want to make sure when you talk about energy efficiency, we're talking about all sorts of things. We're talking about
natural gas, solar,
energy sourcing, even
Yes.
potentially, not just efficiency, but production.
Yes.
And then one other question I have, will this also include any sort of review of non-school buildings, like our athletics facilities and places like that?
Yes, they will be given an opportunity to package together and come up with the best possible proposal utilizing all of our facilities.
Great.
Yep.
And I think just to add one other additional component, which I saw in there, was also looking for all grants, incentives that the district would be eligible for to make upgrades as well.
Yes, and the reason why I pushed to present 3 is because I really want them to all get after it, go out there and compete for this business, not just give it to one and then I want them to really get out there and try to find something for us.
Thank you. All right, board members. Next, we have the request to approve the cancellation of the 16-section lease agreement between Jackson Public Schools and ABC Pallets. Mr. Wilton Chuck Jackson, our Executive Director of Assets and Property, will present this information.
Good evening, Dr. Seaback, board members, Dr. Green, members of Jackson Public School District family. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve cancellation of 16-section land lease between Jackson Public School District and ABC Pallet, Inc. for the 16-section property located at 1623 South Gallatin Street, Jackson, Mississippi, identified as tax parcel 174-2, 174-2-3, and 174-2-5.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Board members, any questions or comments? Next, we will move on to the request to approve the preliminary monthly financial report for the month ended September 30th, 2024. Mrs. Margaret Purnell, our Executive Director of Business Services, will present this information.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Board President, Dr. Seaback, board members, Superintendent Dr. Green, JPS family as always. The administration recommends that the board approve the monthly financial report for the period ending September 30th, 2024. The monthly financial report contains the statement of fund balance, the budget status report, the reconciliation report, and the district maintenance cash flow report. For the general funds, the fund balance as of 9/30/2024 was roughly $16.7 million, which was $6.7 million greater than it was in September of 23. Revenues are lower than expenditures, this time by approximately $5.8 million. Our 16th section revenue is 26.5% of budget, which represents about $271,000. On the special revenues, the Child Nutrition Fund is always continuing to always have a significant balance of roughly about 11.6 on their fund balance. Our special revenue funds shows a negative fund balance, roughly about $24 million. And as my boss has already stated, this month, as of yesterday, we have actually requested $22 million. For this month, hopefully it'll get in by October the 29th. So it's looking a little bit better than it has been in the past. So we look forward to that. on our budget status report. As of September 30th, the district has collected about $37.2 million of our projected budget of $231.2 million, which is 16.1% of budget. Our expenditures on district maintenance, we have expended $43 million, which represents 18.6% of the $231.2 million of that budget, which, as I stated, our collected versus expended is roughly at a negative $5.8 million currently as of September 30th. All other funds, we collected $23.1 million, 13.9% of the budget, and the expenditures, we have expended 44.6 on all other funds, which is 21.3% of that budget, which is roughly $21.3 million negative on those as well. But board members always remember that even though we have budget, which is be one amount, but our revenue, we would have already had expended revenue already on hand prior to our getting this money. Here's new money, and the other money may be already owed. We already had expenditures, already revenue already obligated for those funds. Bank reconciliations, all our bank accounts are with board-approved depositories, and our bank statements have been reconciled as of August 31st of 2024. Our cash flow report, as of September 30th, our ending cash balance was roughly about $3.7 million compared to September of 23, which is about 2.8, and that is an increase of about $900,000 from our prior year's position. Other management key performance indicator reports on our revenue and expenditure budget versus actual. Our overall revenues collected year to date is about $12 million greater than what it was last year, which is about 48%. Our overall expenditures is about $5 million greater, which is 13.9% greater than what it was last year. Our Avalon collections are actually $2.4 million more than what it was last year during this time. Our personnel and benefits is about $1 million more than what it was last year. And as we always stated, of course, we had our salary increases, and as always, it is budgeted in our $231.2 million. Any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Purnell, for that update. Board members, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve items B through L for information action agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hood has moved. Mr. Figurs has seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda item finance. The board's previously reviewed all the consent agenda items for finance, and we've had the opportunity to ask administration questions. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
We're on consent agenda A. Is that correct?
Finance?
Finance, yeah, consent agenda.
Yes. Consent agenda, well, it's item 9, the whole thing. Did you have a question on?
A question about A.
Okay.
But I may not have read thoroughly.
That's okay.
Did we identify a particular university, or is this just a university that?
Maybe we can invite Mrs. Margaret Purnell up. This is the, in specific reference to, okay, Mr. Burke, to reject RFP 2024 for the University Partnership for Teacher Certification Program.
Yeah.
It's that one, item A, right there. I think that's the one, right, Dr. Hairston?
Yeah. Dr. Knowles. Yeah, come on.
This is the right slide.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Hairston, you want to ask the question?
I wasn't able to discern. Was there a particular university identified, or are we not? Or we're just saying that?
Yeah. So Jackson State University was the only university to respond to the RFP, but they didn't address every issue that we requested in the request for proposals. So this is actually the second time we've had to reject the bid so that we can re-bid. Okay. We've made adjustments to the proposal. to make sure that we're clear in what we're asking for and asking for universities to respond to. One of the biggest issues is making sure that the university has an approved program for the, excuse me, Elementary Ed Supplemental Endorsement Program, which is a strategic need that we're trying to meet here within the district to get certified elementary teachers. And they didn't respond to that at all in the proposal. So we're trying to go through the process so we can rebid it and make sure that all universities that apply are clear on what it is we're requesting as a district to support those candidates.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Knowles. There was a motion on the table. Was it you, Mr. McGuffey?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. McGuffey has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Harrison, a second. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Harrison, for asking those questions. Next, we have the consent agenda items general. The board has previously reviewed all consent agenda items for general. We've had an opportunity to ask the administration questions. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Thompson has moved. Ms. Harris has seconded. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Next, we have our consent agenda item personnel. All the consent agenda items personnel have been reviewed by the board previously. We've had an opportunity to ask the administration questions. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hilliard has moved. Dr. Harrison has seconded. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Board members, we do have an item for executive session tonight. Is there a motion to close the meeting to consider executive session?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Figures has moved. Mrs. Thompson has seconded. All in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.